So, it is the 22nd of May and I am super excited because we have sprouts. This guy is a little corn sprout. And we've got a whole row of them. There's another one there, another there, and there. And I've got the rest of the rows have been coming up too. But as you can see, there's quite a lot of weeds in between. So I'm going to have to take care of that. The thing is, here is a corn sprout, and here is a bit of grass. They look very similar, especially when they're smaller. See, this is also a corn sprout, and that's some grass. That's some grass. They look very similar. Basically, the way that I've been able to figure out which is a corn and which is not is, first of all, I'm very familiar with how the grass looks because I've been pulling it out of my garden for the last 10 years or so. And I've only been growing corn for the last 4 or so years, but there are a few differences. Basically, especially when they're bigger, you can see that the corn, the leaves start to go in and out, kind of undulating. But grasses don't do that. They stay straight the whole way up. And also, corn tend to have slightly fatter ones. But the most telltale sign, especially when they're young, is the way that the corn leaves wrap around. You can see they come almost all the way from one side of the grass of the corn to the other when they come out, whereas grass usually start maybe halfway around and then go. If that makes any sense from what you can see. Also, at the bottom, grass tends to be more flat. Let me see if I can get it to focus. More flat like that, whereas corn tend to be more, where am I? Corn tend to be more round. So I have to go really close in to weed around all of these, and then I'll use a hoe between the rows to get the bigger areas. But that's not all that's come up. This little guy is a bean sprout, which I'm very excited about because last year I had a lot of trouble getting my bean seeds to sprout. And there's another one over here. I really like it when I happen to catch them just as they're coming out of the dirt, because then I can kind of help it out. Free him. And where I saw another one over here. Here's one. You can see this right here is the arch of one that's just starting to come out. This is only a week after I've planted them, and that's really good for me anyway. We've just had really good growing weather. It's been really sunny and really warm, and I've been able to keep the dirt really wet, so all the conditions have been met and they've just cooperated and sprung up. So this is one of the little squash that I planted. You'll see it looks quite a lot like the mini pumpkins that I transplanted a while ago, but those have grown quite a bit since I transplanted them. They've gotten pretty dang big, which is also very nice because last year when I transplanted, they took a really long time to establish themselves and lost a lot of growing time. But this year they don't seem to have paused much at all. And here I've got more, and here I've got more little squash sprouts happily coming out. Hopefully this year they produce fruit. Last year I got squash plants, but they didn't produce any fruit. It was very frustrating. I don't know if they just came out too late and they didn't have time, or what happened. So basically now, I've got a whole lot of weeding to do. So much weeding. It never ends. If you remember what I said about an area where I'm planting the squash and pumpkins being totally carpeted in weeds, this is what I mean. All this kind of network stuff is about an inch beneath the soil, and it just absolutely covers like 100 square feet, probably. Maybe a little less than that. But yeah, I bet that's 10 feet by 10 feet, probably 100 square feet. It's just covered in this kind of netting, about an inch beneath the soil, and I chopped this section out, but it's just all throughout that whole area. So that's what my seeds roots will have to contend with. This little guy is another volunteer. This soil is just so nice and keeps so nicely watered, and has so the grass has been torn up so well that all sorts of things spring up. This is a baby of that big old guy, but he can't stay here. That one over there is also a baby of the same tree, which we've let grow even though we shouldn't because it blocks the sun. But my dad's gonna cut it down soon, and I'll probably rip this one out myself, poor little guy. This is just not the place for him. I've also had my nasturtium sprout, and I believe that these have got to be kohlrabi, so I'll be weeding around them soon. Here's some bigger ones over there. But I don't know if my pepper plants have sprouted yet. There should be some near this little twig, but there's nothing particularly pepper plant looking, or by this twig either, because these aren't pepper plants. And all the rest is grass, so I'm wondering if those seeds are duds or if I planted them too deep. I thought I planted them real shallow, but might end up replanting those. Oh, and I have had some carrots and onions sprout. Here's a nice little bunch of carrots. I've just, I haven't planted them in rows this year. I've just planted them in a square, about 4 feet by 4 feet. And I'm just gonna individually weed the whole square and let some weeds just grow among them, because it's so much work to weed among carrots even when they're in a row. And then amongst the carrots there's also these, which are little baby onions, which last year didn't turn into anything. They look just like green onions, just like chives, because there was just a tiny bulb at the bottom and a lot of green stuff, even though they're supposed to be bulb onions, white onions, yellow onions, that's what they were, yellow onions, and there's some more there. Yeah, so they're all over this square, and that square as well over there where I've also let the hoses run through. And these are volunteer sunflowers. There's a variety. There's these kind, and then this is a different kind. Here's the one kind, here's the other right next to each other. This one has fatter leaves and doesn't have the dark in the center. So these ones will be probably big and tall yellow sunflowers that are really huge, and these ones will probably be smaller both in height and in diameter of the flower, and also will be darker orange. And then this is one of the volunteer mini pumpkins that has gotten quite a lot bigger. And over here some of the beans have grown quite a lot. There. He's looking a little deformed, but there's one other that was looking deformed too. Don't know what's wrong with him, but this one looks just fine. And there's another fine looking one. So that's what's been happening in my garden lately. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!